anything
I
that
see.
could stand up,
Good point.
like give you a high five, is just off the table, man. You know what I mean? I couldn't see myself eating a kangaroo. It just,
I don't know. I don't know. I'd try anything once. Huh.
but my whole point was is like that's probably a softer version of their reaction when they saw these people sacrificing a bear in their festivals, and not only that, but ceremonially, you know what I mean, like ceremonial uh, uh, sacrifices. I think that would probably flip them out, to be honest with you. So that I
I don't know. Depends on how it's done, I suppose.
Okay, so what they basically do is they perform rituals, they offer sacrifices, and they interpreted signs from the spirit world. That's what these people did. Their tools included drums, sacred objects, and ceremonial customs. And these were adorned with symbols um, of their spiritual journeys. So um, with that, you have to get into the shamans. So this is the shamanism that goes into it. Shamans were usually called upon to heal like physical and spiritual ailments, um, and they would use these rituals, uh, or they would involve these rituals, which were basically like chanting and drumming, and then of course, the invocation of protective spirits that would come in and heal a person who was ill. You know what I mean? Or you know, just protection and stuff of that nature. Um, then you had divination. Um, so you had the shamans that did that. Then you had divination. It was a common practice for these guys to seek guidance from the spirit world. Shamans used sacred objects, like I said, in natural elements. Now they were into fire, water, and stuff like that. They used it to interpret messages. So they would use objects or natural stuff like fire, water, things of that nature. I don't even know what they believed in. Like I know that we had natural elements, which was fire, water, air, um, and what's the other one? Fire, air, water, earth,
Yeah. Yeah.
earth. Okay, but yeah, well, actually, they would do it because they worship the mountains and stuff of that nature too.
Mm,
So,
mm.
that would make perfect sense. Now, the Mansi and the Conti marked seasonal changes with communal ceremonies to honor the spirits of nature. These events often included dances, songs, and offerings. Uh, Now we get to the natural landscapes. Okay, the natural landscapes play a central role in the Mansi and Kanti's religious practices. Um, Now they had specific locations such as groves, springs, and mountains. You know, and remember Dead Mountain. Keep that in mind. All right, and they are considered sacred. All of them are sites of worship. So they would go to these places to worship them, but they weren't like this mountain is like the central mountain where we were all going to make a pilgrimage to. You know what I mean? They would go to mountains, just period. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's the one thing that I did find out about that, and it's really kind of it is pretty much a nomadic kind of thing because you can see that too when you well just watch documentaries of Mongolia, and the way the nomads participate or act down there. That was a really um, that was really how they practiced it. Like if they were around a certain area that had like mountains and they wanted to do uh, their ceremonies on a mountain, and they would go to that mountain, and that would be important to them at that moment. Um, Now, like I said, with these rituals, they made offerings, okay, and the common offerings that they usually made was like food, which consisted of meat, fish, or bread, things of that nature. They would use animal sacrifices, and then they would also use coins and other valuables, and that was basically the extent of it. Now, like I said, there were allegations that were made about the Mansi, about human sacrifices during the time of this whole situation that was taking place. Okay, but historically, there's been no substantial evidence to suggest that the Mansi or the Conti people practice human sacrifices as a part of their religious traditions. All right. Their rituals and spiritual practices um, primarily focused on animal offerings, particularly reindeer and other domesticated and wild animals. Now, the domesticated thing is kind of what struck my attention. I hope they're talking about horses. You know what I mean? And even in that aspect, I mean, nobody wants to see a horse sacrificed. You know what I mean? But like, what?
I don't know. Again,
Like,
it's all food at the end of the day.
well, I mean, you know, Jeffy and him always talks about cats and everything over there in Korea. So it's like when I
Every culture's got its own delicacies.
now they did use reindeer, particularly. That was one of the big things. Now now when it comes to that, other than that, they used offerings of like food, coins, and valuables to appease spirits and deities. But that was basically what they used. Okay. Um, Now the sacrificial rituals among the Muncies and the Contis often involved animals like reindeers, which I said, which held significant spiritual and economic value. Okay. These sacrifices were performed to honor deities, seek protection, or ensure successful hunting and reindeer herding. So these guys, uh, the, the reindeer were used, for they would sacrifice one of them so that they would be able to herd their reindeers good. They would have a successful hunt and things of that nature. Items such as bread, fish, and coins were common offerings. They were left at sacred sites like groves, springs, and mountains. So they would leave coins and stuff like that behind.
Yeah.
Now the springs would probably come from what, like you were talking about, the fountains. Okay, and for me, I find that to be a lot more of a Indo-European kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I kind of get this whole blending of Indo-European with lunar worship. You know.
Okay.
Because a lot of the Indo-Europeans were solar worshippers, and
Well, I think it depends on which part of the hemisphere you're on.
well,
Because
that
obviously,
we're talking about that.
further south, it's more sunnier.
Well, dude, lunar worship. You know what lunar
Yeah,
worship is?
there will be exceptions, but as an example, Aztecs are Aztec civilization was sun
Yeah,
sort of worshippers.
yeah,
So
I know. They were. Well, Babylonians. Okay, a lot of people.
Mm. Yeah.
A lot
So
of
yeah, the tougher you go, the warmer it is. The
you know. Now the Babylonians, though, you got to understand, they were lunar worshippers. They didn't believe in
well, yeah,
this.
there's going to be exceptions to that rule, but
You know.
as a generalization.
And like the Indo-Aryans up in that region, which is north, were actually solar worshippers. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like they they actually did that, and a lot of solar worshippers believed in human sacrifices, which
Mm.
kind of makes it interesting because, like I said, with the whole thing about the springs and groves, maybe not the mountains as much. I have heard some things, especially in the Turkish area with the Urartu, that they did worship, and the Scythians and the Sarmatians. They were real big on the mountains. They actually had a deity that was a mountain god,
Mm.
and they were Indo-Europe or Indo-Aryans too.
Well,
So
it's obviously if you've got mountains around you and you're in a primitive culture, then yeah, you're going to worship what's your environment of some description. So if you've got mountains there, you're going to worship some deity on the mountain.
well, think about it too. Like they believed that this deity was walking on this mountain, and was what was causing thunder. You know what I mean? So they would hear
Mhm.
thunder in the distance, and they would think that it came from this mountaintop where the gods were. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm.
that's one thing that always stuck out to me. So it would make sense that people would be mountain worshippers. So I always thought that was pretty good. But the but the spring connection thing there, you know what I mean? That kind of sticks out to me where it's kind of strange. It might have been a culmination too, you know, because like eventually a lot of these Indo-Aryan cultures did settle down. Like they didn't all just like migrate freaking east all at one time. It took time for them to eventually make it to the Caspian and Black Sea, all the way over to Asia. You know, it took thousands of years actually. Well, not thousands. Wait, maybe,
Well, yeah. Well,
maybe. But it took them time to get there. You know, because you were talking about the
mm,
Uyghurs. The Uyghurs
yeah, yeah.
are they're a good example of Indo-Aryan. So, like in this region, they could have all kind of culminated. And this is where they came from, you know. So I wanted to get through that and talk about that with you guys and bring that out first about these guys and kind of give an idea of what they were. Now their sacred ceremonies, they included bear festivals. They emphasized reverence for the animal spirit. The bear, considered a divine mediator, was treated with respect, and its spirit was symbolically released during elaborate rituals. So it was symbolically released. You know, I think that that's probably like a load of shit. You know what I mean? I can't really cave into that because I've been seeing a lot of that in like a lot of my a lot of the channels that I go to that I like to read check out when it comes to history. They're getting
Okay.
they're getting really woke on a lot of this shit. You know what I mean?
Okay.
There's no other way of saying it. You know what I mean? Like it's just so saturated now. I mean, channels that I actually liked and I respected, I still I can't handle going to it anymore because of how disgusting they are. You know what I mean? They've just warped the hell out of history, and this is one of them, like symbolically released. You know, and its spirit was symbolically released. You know.